in tonight.
She told me to be over here. I just thought if I could lean on you.
Oh, you can anytime. You're welcome to this.
We'd like to get started because we have quite a bit to go through. It's good to see everybody. It's good to have a full board here with us tonight. Before we get started right into the meat of things, I need to turn some time to Jan for a second.
Well, I just thought Paul had said that we were going to celebrate some good things that are happening in the state, and I saw Lillian out in the hall, and I thought, oh, she'd be the perfect person to talk to about what's going on in the state. So
she's not here by accident.
No,
I
I would be wearing something better. Do you want me to go to the mic or just stand, or what?
Yeah, that one would work too.
Okay, I'll take this one. Then I'm not stealing.
Well, yeah, I was caught in the hallway a little bit by surprise, you know. I would have probably dressed a little bit better, but, you know, I'm going on a bike trip tomorrow, and I've been packing all day, and I saw Jan, and I was just talking about some things I was doing in retirement, and she said, well, you should just share with the board, and I said, oh, I'd love to. Hi, I know, I've been giving hugs, it's been great. I just as a side note, I miss you people. You are fabulous people, so I just love my time here, so I had to say that. But I still sit on the Governor's Multicultural Commission, and in my retirement, people have asked me to do special projects, and one of them is the Promising Youth Conference. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the history. It was founded, this conference was founded in 1980 by a gentleman named Doug Bates. And it just so happens, because everything is kind of related, I think, that's kind of my philosophy, is Doug Bates was a family friend of a woman who was a board member at South Sanpete, and she was a good friend of mine as well. And at that time, I was going in education, and she said, if you ever need anything, I want you to contact this gentleman because he knows what's going on across the state. And as he looked at the needs of professionals across the state, he decided to do a multi-agency collaboration for students that at the time they called troubled youth. And they've now changed the term to promising youth. And so, excuse me, my asthma's a little bad today. It's a collaboration of educators, juvenile justice, juvenile courts, mental health providers for youth to provide services for individuals and students that are most at risk, at need, and underserved. And it's gone on for 42 years. Now, if you're doing the math, you're saying, wait a minute, that's 43. Obviously, COVID year, we did not have a conference. Well, coming back from COVID, they said, we really need someone who has put on several conferences. And if you know my history, I have put on a lot of professional development conferences. So I've been helping for the last few years as one of the chairs at this conference. And every year, we honor individuals who carry that spirit and that history of serving students. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to cry. I actually am not here by accident, even though I'm not dressed for the occasion. I have known this individual, and I calculated it's probably been about 11 or 12 years. And I met this individual when she was a principal at Roy High School. And I watched her career as she was a principal, student services director, and executive director in secondary, and now the superintendent of this great district, this great school district. And as I have watched her career and her commitment, this committee, our Promising Youth Committee, would like to honor Gina Butters with the Promising Youth Award this year. This award will be given at our annual conference, May the 11th and 12th. And the award will be given at the closing session on May the 12th, it's a Friday, at Snowbird. And I would like to invite any of the board members who would like to attend to come to the lunch prior to at 1:30 on that day. And then just following lunch is the closing session. And I'll be happy to send you some more information about that. But I don't have the time, nor I don't want to take away from the award, but I do want to just read a few words that I think are very fitting and why Gina deserves this award. The theme this year is Healing-Centered Engagement for Promising Youth. And of course, since I'm kind of tattling on myself, being a chair, there is a little bit of the undertone of serving students who are most at need and need our help the most. And so when looking at individuals across the state to receive this award, we're looking for leaders, and this is what was written, one of the things written, leaders who are authentically committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Leaders that know that they have the responsibility to listen and actually hear people. To understand others' experience and not question their validity because they can't relate to the experience or their issues, their problems. When it comes to equity or equality and equity, people, I'm a storyteller, so think about a middle school basketball team. If you gave every player a size 7 shoes, that would be equal. They'd all have a pair of shoes, but of course, everyone wouldn't be fitted correctly for their size shoes. Equity is making sure that everyone gets the pair of shoes that fit so that they can participate on a level playing field. Gina is passionate about helping and supporting not only students but staff, as well as making sure everyone gets the right pair of shoes. And then that is one of the reasons why she will be honored with this award.
And I'd love to stay, but I'm leaving on my trip, and thank you so much.
Absolutely.
For allowing me here.
And as many of us as can be there will be if the road's open yet.
Yeah. But I will send you guys all an email, and I'll give you the information, and Jan will just double check with you if you don't mind, to be kind of the lead person. So
Sure.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, it worked perfect.
Yesterday, I shot Superintendent Butters a text and said, I need about 5 minutes at the beginning of study session, and I wouldn't tell her what it was for. And she was just a little nervous.
I was a little nervous.
Wonderful, that's awesome.
Thanks so much.
That's awesome, good job.
I'm humble, thanks.
Board, let's review real quick our assignments for graduation. They're all listed there in front of you. And do we have any board members that would prefer a speaking assignment at a graduation?
Bonneville,
Bonneville.
I have a granddaughter graduating.
Okay, Pam, are you writing these down for us? Thank you. Okay,
Roy, I already argued with John about it.
so
Some year
Jan,
I'll get my chance, but
Jan,
before
that's Roy.
it's Jan.
Okay, and Janice
Weaver,
Weber.
I have a granddaughter.
Wonderful. You know, my oldest grandchild turns 11 this year.
11.
Just a while.
You gotta hang on.
Let's see, Fremont,
I'll do whatever. Janice and I talked about Weaver, and she wanted to do it this year. She had a grand, so we're gonna like do some every
She's
other
working
year.
towards her son's graduation in
But
2 years.
But since I'm not doing Weaver, I can be flexible to whatever.
do you want to do any?
I'm
You
not
won't be
in,
here.
I'm in St. George.
We've got to fill in for him. Bruce, do you have any preference either? Kelly, let's put Kelly down for Fremont.
I think that's great. That's fine.
Bruce, do you have any grandchildren, nieces, nephews, neighbors?
I'm too old to have all that. No, mine are in Morgan, the old that are old.
Okay.
I already asked him to speak at my funeral, so instead of graduation.
I'll take Weaver Innovations again, and then
Two Rivers. Two Rivers is left.
Two Rivers in adult education.
I'll do one of those, I don't care.
I can
I've done one
I
of
can
them.
do one of those as well.
Okay.
And I would be happy.
Just speak up which one, and she can write it down, and then I think we're covered.
I'll do Two Rivers, that's usually a virtual one, I'll usually take that.
And superintendent will take care of Canyon View. Okay?
Did you end up
Is that
with
all?
Weaver Innovations? Did they clear that?
Two Rivers says it's at the Monarch.
Two Rivers, yeah, is Jan,
Which one
and
do
then
you
adult
want?
ed is Bruce, is that right?
Bruce needs one.
I don't,
Adult ed, yeah, he does.
I have you,
I'm not, it's not a necessity for me to have
I
one.
don't think anybody signed up for adult ed.
I have you down for adult ed, is that right? Did I write it wrong?
I guess you do.
If I was in town, I would have taken one, like Roy High, but be to the governor's safety center.
Bruce, they have kind of
Good
a
job.
different format for that. I'm glad, and the superintendent is glad to cover that. If you just want to maybe pop in, why don't you let us just cover that? Because it's a little bit longer. It's by appointment kind of a deal.
Oh, okay.
You know, Two Rivers in the past has been a video one, so do you want to do that one instead, Bruce? And you can,
You know, I'm not in any rush to do any of them.
but I'm doing two, so if you want that one.
So I nominate
That's
Bruce
fine.
for.
You do those, I'll be fine.
If John,
I think
if John
you
wants, John wants to do Roy, I'll
I-
cover for him at St. George.
Make sure you introduce yourself to the governor. He's the guy that runs the place.
Thanks, everyone. We'll get that published so everybody has a copy of those, and we can go from there. Heidi? Please.
I'm going to talk to you about a couple of policies that we don't have an official policy committee yet. We're working on creating one, but Heather Hardy and I have been working on policies, and as different areas come up, we gather stakeholders in those areas to review them. And these policies have been ready to present to the board for about a month, but we realized that this current board meeting is going to be full of appointments and other board business. And so we wanted to put it in front of you and give you an opportunity to think about it, to provide feedback. Also, because these policies need board feedback, maybe more so than our other general operational policies. And so the two policies I wanted to talk to you about tonight are our dress code policies and our search and seizure policies. They should be in your board packet, right, Pam? Do they have them?
Yes, we got that.
Okay. And I'm happy to go through the policies one at a time. Let me just kind of give you some information about why we are reviewing these particular policies. In addition to what I've mentioned before, of overhauling all of our policies to make sure they're consistent in formatting and they're up to date in terms of legal requirements. These policies particularly have been, we've been asked to look at these policies by administrators and parents over the years. The dress code policy is one that comes up as a question frequently, especially because we have a district dress code policy, but then all of our schools have their own dress code policies. And sometimes those contradict, and sometimes they are not necessarily contradictory, but one may be more narrow than the other. And so as we talked internally about specifically the dress code policy, and then I'll speak to the search and seizure policy, we decided it would be best for the district to have a single dress code policy. So we weren't getting conflicting policies, and we weren't having parents in one area saying, well, why do kids over there get to wear this, and why does my kid have to wear this? So the idea is that this would be the district dress code policy, and it would replace all school dress code policies so that everyone would be on the same page. In our current policy, there are some areas that are somewhat vague and ambiguous, and we wanted to clarify what our policy is. And the way that we wrote it was, here's what you can wear, and here are things that are not allowed at school. And so if you take a look at section 5, Roman numeral 5, you can see in letter A, we were pretty brief with what students must wear. We didn't want to be incredibly prescriptive in terms of what a student has to wear to school. Does everyone see where I'm looking at? Maybe they don't have this.
We don't have it in
We
front
don't
of us.
have that.
Oh,
have it by
okay, I'm
email.
sorry. I'll send it to you all, obviously, or
No, we
just,
just-
I said
The
that.
second pages are only ones that were attached to it.
got it, okay.
They do have it via email,
But it's
I
probably-
should have had it where we could post
Sorry, I
it.
did-
That's okay. No, that's okay. I'll just let you know that you can visually see how short and brief the what students must wear is. And basically we're saying wear things that cover yourselves. You know, wear tops that cover yourselves, wear bottoms that cover yourselves, and wear footwear that's safe. And then we have a number of prohibitions in terms of what is not allowed, like clothing that intentionally shows private parts. We spent a great deal of time talking about what is a private part, what is appropriate in terms of different parts of the body. One of the things we really want to get away from is putting our administrators in a position of having to measure clothes and having to send students home because what they're wearing is either immodest by their account, but maybe not by the parents' account. And so we wanted to try to move away from the apparel shaming that sometimes schools get accused of and administrators sometimes get accused of. And so please read through it when you have a minute. There are not a lot of questions that I've received. Kelly submitted a couple questions on this particular policy. And Kelly, do you?
I think this one I only have it was just asking, well, first of all, I just want to say, like, I sit on a couple of PTA boards, and at the beginning of the year, at least the administrators on those at those schools, they bring it up in PTA. They say, this is what the district is talking about. So our administrators are reaching out to parents because as a parent, we see this all the time. Our kids come home and say, so-and-so is dress coded, so-and-so wasn't. I think our kids see the discrepancies. They see that one school allows hats, the other school doesn't allow hats. And so that is difficult, and it's difficult for our administrators to field those questions as well. So I did sit down in the last couple months, both with Brock and with Matt, and then I did come to one of their dress code policy meetings. And the thing that I appreciated was that there was a representative from every secondary, was it each secondary school? Each secondary school had an administrator at this meeting. And I know that they'd already met previous to me, but what I did appreciate from those administrators was them talking about this works at our school and this, we haven't been doing this, and kind of bringing everybody on board to the same table. So I think all of that's helpful, and that they had previously asked parents, like, what are you concerned about? One thing I really do, like, I think this policy has been well vetted by our administrators, good questions by parents. I was going to share a story. I've shared it with superintendent and with Brock, but since nobody else on the board has an 8th grade daughter, I'll just share my experience. So one of the things on enforcement that I appreciate as well is it talks about basically not doing it in front of other students and other. So my daughter a month or so ago was wearing, she had folded over her jeans because that's a popular thing that the girls do. And her shirt, I saw her that day, she had maybe this much stomach showing. So we have this issue with girls showing way too much stomach and all the things, right? So it was in between classes, and she had a teacher who wasn't her teacher point to her from across the room and say, you need to cover up. And I said, luckily my daughter doesn't have self-esteem issues and she wasn't upset about this, but it could have gone another way with another student and another family. And then she had her friends going, oh, turn her in, dress code, dress code, dress code. And so I told her later, I said, well, luckily for you, next year this won't be you won't be dress coded for what you're wearing. And 2, I think it's good across the board that our administrators are on the same page, and teachers. And the nice thing was I spoke to Matt Patterson about it. He asked me what teacher it was, and there'll be some training component needed on all of our teachers and stuff. But I think a big and another thoughtful thing in this policy is we want our kids to feel like they belong, that they're welcome at school, and that, like I said, we're not feeling like the dress code. I mean, and then at my son's junior high last year, there were some boys in wife beaters, which is against the dress code, but that's regardless, who were told to put shirts on, but there were some girls sitting behind them in tank tops, and the boys just started yelling, shoulders behind us, because they felt like the dress code wasn't being enforced equally amongst genders. So I think this will go a long way.
Yeah, thank you.
But my question was
Yes.
for Brock. We had talked about flags. So where is that going to fit under what part? Because it's not explicit on the flags. So
When we talked about that, we looked at a couple different areas. Flags can be a variety of things, right? So there's areas within here that talk about hate speech and symbols that may signify hate, which are not allowed anyway within other parts of our policy, but it's also included in here because it may be on shirts or jeans or anything as well, but also the safety risk, because we have students who wrap flags around them and they drag behind, which then could cause a tripping hazard. And so that's where we're gonna
so
lean on the
inexplicitly,
safety.
it's just a safety.
Yes.
Yeah, we also, if you don't have it in front of you, but there is a prohibition on clothing that creates a disruption of school. And so when
I
kids
just
are
couldn't
wearing
remember
anything.
what the decision was there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I will say this is a policy that I'm gonna acknowledge Heather, because she was amazing at organizing different groups and pulling people together and getting input. This is certainly not one person's idea.
So nice to come up with some consistency.
Yeah.
I think parents will be pleased.
Good. Yeah, so read through that. The one that I'm just going to take a couple minutes, but I'm actually going to ask that maybe we reconvene, because the search and seizure policy has caused a lot of discussion amongst the leadership here at the district, particularly on one issue. We revised this policy to make sure it was consistent with the law, and again, consistent across the district. We have some administrators that love searching kids and some administrators that hate searching kids. And our current policy is somewhat broad and again, vague enough that there's just this inconsistency. And I'll just jump right to the point. Our biggest issue in schools that administrators utilize searches for is vapes. Vaping is a big problem in our schools. And when kids have vapes in backpacks, that's not as worrisome in terms of searching as when kids hide vapes in their undergarments. And that happens not infrequently. The student might hide a vape in her bra or underwear, and when that happens, administrators are wondering what to do. And we discussed, we as in me and the secondary directors, primarily this is a secondary issue, elementary school students aren't often searched, but everywhere from, do we allow handheld metal detectors to be used on our students? Do we do a drug test? Do we do a strip search? Do we ask kids to do a strip search? Do we call parents down and have them strip search their kids? Or do we just say, this is what it is, and we're gonna chase other problems? And we have gone around in a circle, and to be honest, this is one of the very few policies that I've worked on since I've been with the district where we haven't quite come to a consensus. And so we really do want the board's input on where the district wants to stand on this issue. And like I said, it's probably a discussion, a bigger discussion for another day. But just to sort of give you the opposing positions, on the one hand, we could take a very serious and this is a very serious approach to vaping, in that we are going to find it at all costs, and we're going to address it, and we're going to take action and suspend kids and take a punitive sort of enforcement approach, which could include all of those things I mentioned. On the other hand, there are some administrators and some district leaders who feel like that's misfocusing our purpose, which is to educate kids and to keep kids in school and to help kids and to work with kids. And the gotcha mentality and the enforcement mentality is better reserved for law enforcement, not for administrators.
I was just going to say, I think especially at our high schools, we're having an issue with this taking up too much of our administrators' time of their day.
Yes.
And they're not being able to do the rest of their job. So I do think it's an important thing to think about, because it is a balance, because I don't think that should be their full-time job, is chasing kids in the bathroom. I mean, it is a major problem, but yeah.
Is that what we want to focus on?
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree, Kelly, to an extent. These are fire hazards. You know what I mean? And you've got kids in schools that's got 15 other kids. So
Yeah.
my suggestion would be, let's slow down and make sure we do it right,
Yeah.
and get everybody involved. Because there's more than just policing.
Right.
But I guess
There's
my
also
point,
safety issues. They're throwing them in garbage cans in bathrooms that are starting on fire. Everything that's getting caught, they're carrying them on them. So I think there's a whole lot more that probably we ought to talk about and get some groups going where we're going would be my suggestion.
Have we heard what other districts are doing, or, I mean, can we have some?
I think every district's grappling with this, trying to find a balance somehow. I think that's gonna be key.
I just feel like our administrators are already, like I said, I'm not saying not do it, but we need to either delegate it to somebody else. I don't know how that looks. I just don't think it should be 90% of our principal's day is chasing
And
babes.
that's been voiced by several administrators. And really, this sounds like a very narrow problem, but it is a legitimate and real problem. It's not so much vapes in backpacks or even vapes in pockets or jackets, because we can search those. We do search those with minimal intrusion, very little privacy violation. But it's when students are hiding vapes or other contraband. It just so happens that in 2023, it's vapes, right? And so when they're hiding those vapes in an area that might require a strip search, which is one of the most invasive, if not the most invasive type of a search, only warranted by compelling government need to conduct, that's when we want to pause and make sure we're getting it right. And like I said, there are other ways to find out whether a student is using or has used. We do investigations all the time. Administrators get student witness statements. So there's other ways to approach an investigation besides strip searching a student. But I know at some schools, administrators have on their own accord purchased handheld wands, metal detectors. That makes some administrators very nervous. They don't want to be that police officer. It has a perception that the district would have to be okay with. Other administrators feel like...
Is there a legal issue with that? Is it only our SROs that can do the wands, or the administrators can do that?
They can. It constitutes a search, but as long as it is based on reasonable suspicion, individualized to that student.
And this
They
is
can't
just
randomly
because it's
search.
illegal at a school, right? We're searching because
Vaping is a contraband, which is defined, as something that's in school. And so all over, and like I said, this is a bigger discussion, so maybe we can schedule another time to sit down and really hash this out, but that is the other policy that we're going to go over.
Perfect. We appreciate you giving the draft versions,
Yep.
Heidi, so that we can take a look at them and
Yep.
offer some feedback going forward. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Heidi.
Heather, Rox, Mary Jo, thanks too.
Superintendent.
All right, my information that I included on your agenda, great board, is just more informational. I just want to make you aware in case you get questions. We have sent out that parent-employee survey that I talked to you about recently. We're trying to solicit information and some feedback around our school schedule, and also portrait of a graduate competencies. Which competencies do our parents really want us to drill down and focus on as we implement and incorporate the portrait of a graduate into our strategic plan going forward? So I wanted to make you aware of what those competencies are there, and we'll be talking a lot about that. And then lastly, several of you have asked about HB 21, which is the Open and Public Meetings Act amendments bill that passed, which requires all school board, local boards to have a policy in place around public comment during board meetings specifically, starting in July. And so we will be going to town working on that particular policy and getting that ready. So be thinking about some pieces that you'd like to consider in that policy, okay? Those were my two information. Oh, and then Robert had one last thing.
30 seconds. You have a memo here. The home and hospital needs a car, and in these tight supply chain times, one became available this morning, and so it's also under budget. We have a budget of $30,000. It's under budget. We're going to slip that into the consent calendar to be approved, so that we can get that car while it's still on the lot.
We're going to put it in.
And they've already have it in their account.
Yeah, it's already been budgeted for.
Sounds like it's been there for a while. Okay, that's great.
Well, thanks everyone, and we'll reconvene here in about 10 minutes.